This won't take long.
Okay, I'm only here to win. I'll play.
All will go well. Future promises hope.
I shall help you sleep forever. 私がみんなを守るわ。
You cannot underestimate the enemy. Are you all right?
I feel stronger already. 仲間がいる。
Don't disappoint me.
It is time we end this. Ready. I shall aid you.
私が。
How was she?
How's that feel? Hey! Something the matter?
Are you all right?
I feel stronger already. 仲間がいる。 How's that feel? No way. はっ。私たちの勝ちね。
Hey guys, welcome to another MR review. This time around, I want to focus on Helena because she's been the topic of the day for quite a while sometime this past month. And mainly because JP recently got her summer version and she looks awesome. I don't know how she is unit-wise, but just by looking at her, she just looks awesome. And Helena also does have another UR version of her, cost 100. But today we're going to be looking at the original Helena, who's MR unit. This is her, I want to say her mother form, or to say, like, you know, when she's just queen of the castle. But anyway, her main job is Green Mage. Sub job, Time Mage, and White Mage, which is a pretty good combination in my book, honestly. But we'll go over the ups and downs of Green Mage soon enough. Stat-wise, she's really bad at stats. You know, she has a lot of negative resistances, so you want to keep her, make sure she stays in the back row doing her support stuff. She has some resistance to magic. She has a lot of resistance to stasis, mainly silence, which is very important. Paralysis, slow, and a bit of charm. But she's susceptible to poison, and because she's a wind unit, she's weak to ice. So something to keep in mind. As for her Trust Master, Guardian Staff, I don't know about this. So on the grand scheme of things, if you're a veteran player, this is a pretty worthless Trust Master reward. All it does, it gives makes your max TP up 50, and veteran players, players with strong accounts, can kind of clear things pretty quickly. However, if you do find yourself in a situation where the quest is taking longer than normal, then the extra TP might come in handy for your healers, because that means they have more TP to work with. They can heal just a little bit longer. It's something to keep in mind. There's not really that many gear out there that raises TP. So when we do get that content that's hard or takes a while to clear, and you notice your healers are running low on TP fairly quickly, then this is something to consider, along with trust stones and stuff like that. But overall, it's kind of average. Taking a real quick look at her kit. Again, she's main job Green Mage, which, in my opinion, Green Mage is an excellent job. It's not up there with Time Mage, but it's still a good support job. And I have to say it like that because that's all it is. It's just a support job. And as a matter of fact, because she's Green Mage, Time Mage, and White Mage, she's mainly just support unit. She can do damage. She has some damaging moves, but overall, she's just gonna be providing support. So with that said, she does have a lot of great support support ability. So like speed casting for one significantly lowers her casting rate, and her Emerald Insight, which gets upgraded with her 120 EX job, gets not only gets a raise in area attack resistance, that's the buff that it got, but this Green Mage support job increases the duration of buffs and debuffs cast by self for one turn, which is very good. I have to say this is probably one of the best support moves in the game. There are plenty other ones, but this is pretty up there in terms of support moves for a support unit. I always have this on, or 90% of the time I'll have this on if the character has Green Mage as the part of their jobs and they have this support. It's just that good. You just have to witness like how well an extra turn of support buffs just really helps out. So this is great for her, and the upgrade of the area attack resistance for herself just helps out a lot in her survivability. Her other support abilities, Nullify, Doom, March of the Saints, which is specific for some fights. And then she has Null CT changes, Nullify, Slow, Stop, Haste, and Quicken. Again, specific for some fights. If you're using her for Time Mage, you might want to equip this so she doesn't cast haste on herself or waste time casting haste on herself. It is an option. You don't have to do it. And then finally, Savior's Protection for raised debuff resistance and magic attack resistance up, which helps with her feasible magic resistance. So she could face something magic pretty okay. Reaction abilities, she has slow counter, which in my opinion is a good reaction ability. She also has access to the spell counter, which again is a good ability, and regenerator, which helps which bestows regen on her. The problem is her survivability and the chances of these proccing. But I'll get to that when I get to her master ability, which actually I'm going to go to right now, because she recently got her master ability 2, which gave her a huge buff in survivability. So on top of her EX upgrade giving her area attack resistance, her master ability 2 gave her defense and spirit buff of 25 for the first 5 turns of battle. That's right, the first 5 turns of battle. So those turns where she's buffing and stuff like that, she has a defense buff. So if the enemy unit has an early attack lead, she's not gonna die just as fast, and she can either heal up or continue with her buffs until she no longer can. On top of that, she also got activation time decrease of 20%, which helps with her speed casting. So she's super duper quick with her casting time, which is great. Her normal ability was magic plus 30%, agility plus 10%, so she's pretty fast for a mage. And then she also gets the standard when unit allies get max HP 10% and stop resistance 25, which I think was it's great. Stop resistance is not too common of an ability, and we're starting to see a lot of stop within units like what's her name, Darkfina, who has that dystopia attack that does stop. So this does help with your whim units resist that, and she also gets a more HP buff. So she gains survivability with her master ability 2 upgrade along with her EX2 upgrades, which is great. It makes the slow counter and the regenerator and the spell counter worth it to have as a reaction ability. But prior to this, she's squishy and she would die easily. So these didn't matter much at all. Alright, let's look at her main job, Green Mage. So again, Green Mage is a support class job. So most of her stuff is support base. First we got Imperil. Imperil is a damaging attack that will lower all elemental resistance for 3 turns. But because she has that Emerald Insight support, this will last for 4 turns. So keep that in mind. If you have abilities, buffs, debuffs, that last for X amount of turns, add +1 to that, and you'll see why this can be really, really strong. So right now this attack is meh, but Green Mage did get a job boost in JP, which we might be getting soon. So Imperil is going to be much better later on. But right now it's just I mainly have it off, or if it's on, then it's one of her low damaging attacks that I have her doing. I'm gonna mess this up. Bar Aurora is her upgraded EX move. It takes the wind resistance for all allies and turn it into raised defense, wind resistance, and earth resistance for all allies for 3 turns, 4 turns for her. The problem with Green Mages, and this is why there's not many of them in this game currently, is that their buffs, these buffs, elemental buffs, only buff their respected element. Because she's wind, she ups wind resistance. And you would think that that's not a bad idea, because that means if in a mirror match, if you're facing other wind units, it'll be great. However, I prefer it when it does other kinds of resistances, or a resistance to what you're weak to. That's a more appealing buff than to buff something that you're neutral with and you're really not gonna have much issues. Don't get me wrong, if you're ever facing a win meta like how we currently are, this is a great buff when it was just by itself. With this upgrade makes it more appealing, because not only you're getting the wind resistance, you're also getting earth resistance and defense, and it makes her more flexible in team comps, where you could put her in not just wind teams, you could put her in a rainbow team, you could put her in a team that's weak to earth, so like you could slap her with some lightning units and they'll gain some earth resistance buff, or you could just put her in a team that wants more defense, because they're going to be getting defense for 4 turns rather than 3. So this upgrade was very much needed for her, and I greatly welcome it, especially since it has a big range. She will cast this the most in auto AI, so just keep that in mind. The spell, it removes all buffs. It's a pretty good move. I wish the range was a little bit more. I don't know if the Green Mage upgrade upgrades this or not. I have to double check. But she will cast this on tanks, I've noticed. So she'll dispel their hate, and that actually leaves room for my damage dealers to go after the other units and not just the tank. Ruin is the standard damage ability for Green Mages. This deals not elements damage. It's so. Green Mages aren't damage dealing classes, but if they have nothing else to do and damage presents itself, they will try to cast it. So just keep an eye on that. And then Barora is the weaker version of whatever Aurora version it is. I always have this off. It's better to just go with the higher version because it's a better increase. And most of the time, a Green Mage EX job will upgrade this rather than this. So this is not even worth leveling up. Have it off. Don't use it. It just sucks. Over to we'll focus on that. Over to her sub mage job. She has access to Deprotect, the Shell, and Vitalize. All great abilities. The Deprotect lowers defense. The Shell lowers spirit. Vitalize raises agility. They're all great for green mages. However, because Helena is sub time and sub white mage, those two are better sub jobs for her than her own green mage sub job. So I wouldn't even worry about maxing these out because 9 out of 10 times you're probably not going to be using this anyway. However, if you do wind up using sub green mage, Deprotect and D-Shell are pretty good moves, and the AI will use it if they have to. Over to her Time Mage sub job, she has access to pretty much the better Time Mage spells. She has access to haste, she has access to slow, quicken's always good, and then she has access to the crappy ones like comment, immobilize. Transposition is actually pretty good in manual play, especially if you're doing score attacks. So this is pretty good. If you're into that, then you want to level that up. And then float, which one day would be good, just not right now. But if you have her on Time Mage, you want to have access to the slow, quick, and haste. Max those out because with her new speed casting reduction, she will cast those really quick. And then her white mage job, she has access to Cure, Protect, Shell, Kurada, Raise, Kuraga, Cure, and Asuna. One problem with her white mage job, it's the job I recommend having her on the most because she's a really fast healer. The downside is she doesn't have access to full life. You're stuck with Raise, and there are situations where Raise can be useful, but compared to full life, Raise is just that kid you just pick last. You have to pick that kid for dodgeball if you have to, but if full life is still in the barracks to pick, you pick full life instead. Unfortunately, there's no access to full life, so you're forced to take Raise to your dodgeball team so you could try to win. And that's the situation here. I rather she has full life, but maybe down the road when they do EX sub job, Raise will turn into full life, and it'd just be so much better. But other than that, I mainly have her as a white mage if I'm not using Fina as a healer because she's a pretty fast caster. She has high agility, and she will get off her heals pretty quickly. She's probably top 5 healers for MRs, although I don't know how many healers are there MRs off the top of my head, but she's pretty up there. Fina's still the best healer though. But yeah, that's pretty much her kit. Her EX upgrades and her Mastery 2 upgrades really make her work pretty well. Oh, there is one more thing I forgot to mention actually, and it's her 120 skill. So let me just scroll up here real quick. I haven't unlocked it because it's hard to justify this. So her EX 120 skill is Resistance Weakness. It significantly raises all attack resistance, debuffs resistance of allies within range for 3 turns. Now on paper, this is great. This means that any enemy units that try to break your attack resistances, it just won't work for 3 turns, 4 turns when Helena uses it, and that's great. But I feel like it's very situational because how often does your attack resistance break in battle? And if you're facing units that do like to break your attack resistance, then this is actually a good idea to get. And the best unit I could have thought of that we would love this buff is Whisper. However, Whisper also got her Mastery 2 ability, and it's pretty much this EX 120 skill, but 100% of the time. So the idea of pairing her with Whisper is no longer needed because Whisper already has this in her master ability too. So now you have to think about what other units that have high resistances that you want to pair Helena up with so that Helena could use this and you don't have to worry about those resistances breaking. That's where you see why this is a very situational move. And this is one of those rare cases where I don't recommend the EX 120 skill unless you find yourself in those resistances, those situations a lot, where your attack resistance are being broken and you're like, enough, can't handle this anymore. It's messing me up. Helena, come forth and make sure my attack resistance don't break. But yeah, very situational. Then again, Helena herself, it's a situational kind of unit, and I'll go over more of that in my final thoughts. Alright, over here in the equipment side of things, when you're equipping for Helena, 3 things you want to keep in mind in terms of equipping her, because remember, she's a support unit. She is not an attacker. She's a support unit. Keep that in mind. So, what you want to do when in terms of equipping her, you want to focus on her agility. She's a very fast MR unit. The quicker the agility, the quicker she could go do her buffs and do whatever she has to do, and heal, time mage, all that stuff. So you want to focus on her agility. Second, you want to focus on her survivability. So things that raises her defense or unit resistance, area resistance, anything like that. Her master ability 2 helps with her survivability. You want to increase that further, the best you can. Especially area attack resistance she has in her support, up it even more. And third thing is her casting time. The faster she casts, the faster she brings out the spells and ability, and she's pretty fast overall, so that's probably the least you have to worry about, but it's something to keep in mind. But here's some equipments that I thought of. There's probably more, but let's just go over some of these. Rune Staff is probably the best one to have. I'm not sure if these are in the Time Castle quest. I have to look at that. But if you don't have this, there are Trust Stones that give healing power up as well as a passive. So just try to farm from that. But if you're lazy like me, then you want this staff because it gives healing power up. And if you're putting her as a white mage, this is just going to help so much. Another staff for her would be the Mistral staff, which is unit staff from the Final Fantasy X event. Reason why I recommend this one is because of the equivation gauge boost up. While she's holding this, that equivation gauge boost will go up a bit faster, which is gonna help you some of your espers a lot sooner. Survival Vest is one of those pieces of armor. Wait, can she even equip this? Actually, now that I think about it, yeah, she can. Okay, I couldn't even remember. But it's one of those armor pieces that she could wear so she could survive a bit even longer. Plus, it has a nice defense rate to it as well. So something to keep in mind. We have the gold anklet. reason why I like this one is because it's a nice spirit buff, but it also gives agility up 8% for the first 2 turns of battle. This means she's going to be going in doing those buffs to your party really quickly. And then she could just slow down afterwards. So first 2 turns will be the most important buffs she does, and afterwards she could slow down while the rest of your team just moves on up, and she stays in the back row, making her less likely to die in battle. Leela the Bold's Trust Master reward. Now here's something you want to keep in mind. For green mages, you do want to take advantage of their emerald support ability of +1 buffs. I love that support so much. I already mentioned it. I'm going to keep mentioning it. So any Trust Masters that you use that have buffs, that gives buffs to your teammates, yourself, whatever, they just become even better. So if there's a Trust Master reward that only lasts for 1 turn, now it's going to last for 2 turns. And usually the ones that lasts for 1 turn are very powerful effects. So you just want to take advantage of that and make it last for an extra turn, which can sway the battle. And then there's some Trust Masters like Leela the Bold Trust Master that gives agility up to the party and has a huge range. So this is going from 3 turns to 4 turns, and she could definitely wear this, and it's just great. So this is something to keep in mind. You want to look at your Trust Master rewards and see what buffs are there. You want to try to pick the ones that have good range and has a good buff that will benefit your team. Usually agility is just one of the better buffs. If you want her to survive even more, then you could give her her UR versions Trust Master, which gives her a barrier and agility, so it just makes her even more faster. Although she might not prioritize this first, she'll do her group buffs first before she does this. So if she has nothing else to do, then she'll do this. So just keep that in mind. Aerith's Trust Master gives you the attack buff to allies around her, which is not a bad buff. So it's going to be for 4 turns. It is a small range, so something to keep in mind. Let's see. Then you have Saint Circlet, which is Cecil's Trust Master reward. Again, very good buff, attack, magic buff, and bravery buff. Bravery buffs, in my opinion, are good and really good because it takes that 97 bravery and takes it up to 100, which gives you a better chance of proccing your counter attacks. And ups your damage a bit as well. And this one has a good range. Most people have it, but if you don't, this is Cecil's Trust Master. He is from Final Fantasy IV. He's definitely going to return, so I wouldn't sweat this one. This is Venera's Trust Master. Reason why I picked this is because it decreases chances of being targeted. Again, even with the survivability buff from her Master ability 2 and from her EX upgrade ability, that doesn't mean she can't be one-shotted. She still has all those negative resistances, and if you don't really gear her up for defensively, she can still die pretty quickly. So lowering her hate just increases her survivability. So it's just something to keep in mind. The Light Eater is not going to matter too much, but if you do find yourself attacking with Helena often, then that's going to help just a bit. And then finally we have the Kaleido Moon, which is Medina's Trust Master. Everyone should have Medina. I believe Medina is given out to everyone. And you could correct me on that. It's been a long time since I've been a new player, and maybe things change. But it gives acquire AP attack magic for all allies around her, which is decent range for 3 turns, 4 turns for her. So this is something to keep in mind. In terms of Espers, the Espers you want to focus on are ones that help her speed and ones that increase her magic. The more magic she has, the better she is at healing. So this is something to keep in mind. However, if you were part of the Final Fantasy X rerun event and you picked yourself up a Valor 4, then this is one that I do recommend her holding, especially if she's holding Yuna's Rod, because you have access to even more equivation gauge boost here. So it's just going to increase your chances of summoning the Esper much quicker. So it's something to keep in mind. And I believe someone could correct me on this, but I believe Valifor is probably the best magic Esper currently in the game. Again, someone could correct me if I'm wrong about that. But I think it has the highest magic stat currently in the game, because it's at 120. But, you know, I could totally be wrong on that. Diablos is another good magic Esper for her to hold on to, because you do have access to the magic stats over here. And he's permanent, so if you don't have Valifor, then this is just a good choice also. You also have access to TP up too. And, you know, some other stuff. Slash resistance is very important. Stuff, you know, stuff like that. Another one that's not here that I didn't put, I think it's here, is Katar. Katar has a lot of TP notes. So if you feel like you're running out of TP, this is a good Esper to have. Everyone's going to have Katar. So it's a nice little starter one until you get the better Espers. And you have access to magic nodes also. So this is something to keep in mind. I kind of forgot to favor that one. And then two Espers that this is experimental, but if you're going like an Esper route build with your units, like using Terra's abilities and then the Master Rod, then Chocobo and Winter Moogle might be options for you. I don't know if this works with the Emerald support ability, but I'm under the assumption that it does, so that if Helena summons Chocobo, for example, this defense and agility buff is 4 turns instead of 3. But if someone could correct me on that, that would be great. I am not too sure. But this is still not a bad aspect for her to hold. Because this Esper heals, it removes status effects, and you're getting that agility defense buff no matter what. 3 turns, 4 turns, it's still good. And then if you raise the Equivation Magic, I believe it raises the healing potential. And then you have access to slash resistance as well. A lot of these other nodes won't really work for Helena as a support. But you're mainly going to be using it. Like if she's holding it, you're going to max out Equivation Magic for more healing. And then slash resistance. And then Winter Moogle, which is something that everyone gets every winter. I do feel like it's underrated, but not a lot of people use Espers. They're kind of hard to summon, honestly. But Terra kind of made it a little bit easier. I really got to work on trying to make that Esper team going, see how it works. But Moogle here is also a recovery type Esper, but instead it also raises evasion and critical hit rate for 3 turns. So if Helena's paired with a unit that likes to evade or do critical hits, then this is possible 4 turns, but 3 turns is enough, and you're getting that healing. It has good range. As for the board, again, if she's holding on to it, then you want to raise the Equivation Magic so that you have more healing. Then you also have access to Magic Resist, Fire Resist, Immobilization Resistance, which can play a role. There's some people that likes to immobilize you, and you also have access to TP up as well on this in this tree. So there's something to keep in mind. The support Espers, there are not too many of them, but experiment with them, see how it works. I think they could work out pretty well. In due time, of course. But the main Espers are Valifor and Diablos. When it comes to cards, again, just like gear, you want to focus on speed. You want to focus on casting time. You want to focus on survivability. Those are the cards she wants to hold. On top of win magic cards, she could hold on to those to support your team and their win units, because why not put her in a mono win team. But if she's in a rainbow team or anything like that, then pretty much you want to have cards for she could be the placeholder. But there are a few cards that she might want to hold just for her own survivability or for herself, just to help things a little bit better if you feel like you need it. The most important card for her to have is Black Rose of the Battlefield, which is her Black Rose form. This is mainly for Black Rose Helena, the UR version of herself. However, she can also take advantage to this. This is a global exclusive buff. This buff, Helena Leonis, it's not in JP version. I don't even think this is in JP version as well. She's just getting additional 10% agility. This alone is the reason why she's super duper duper fast. So you want to make sure you have this card on her. Also gives her access to Shadow Flare, which is not a bad move. It's gonna debuff the enemy's area attack resistance for 4 turns. Remember, 4 turns, because you're gonna have Emerald Insight on her. So that's something to keep in mind. So definitely a card that you want her to have. Other cards to have, Blossom in the Dark. Green Mages can hold on to this for some more magic buffs. However, the reason why I suggest this is because she would have access to Runaja, which is a non-elemental XL damaging attack based on a magic attack stat. So if you want to turn her into a damage dealer, which you shouldn't be turning her into a magic dealer, but if you do, you want to have access to this card so she could do major damage that's non-elemental. Chocobo is like a budget version of the Black Rose card. It gives a party agility up 10%. Because she's a win unit, she's going to have more resistance to charm. And it gives herself even more defense buff, so that 25 defense is going to go to 35% for those first 5 turns, and then it will go back down to whatever defense is on top of that. It's probably not I say percentage, but it's probably not percent. Envious Magician is another MR card that's good for her to hold, because it will reduce her casting time even further. If for some reason you feel that her casting time is slow, and it shouldn't be slow with her upgrades, this could be equipped, and then she'll instant cast everything after that. She shouldn't need any more casting reduction after just having this card. But it's an option. It also gives a party up, magic up to 30%. And if you have lightning magic units on the team, they're going to get Man-Eater up on their magic attacks. Plus, it's a cute little card. Look at the little doggy. I like this artwork, by the way. Finally, Leonis Castle. This is not a bad card, because she has that Master 2 ability of the 25 in defense and spirit for first 5 turns. Why not make it 40 for the first 5 turns with this buff? That will guarantee her survivability. It's the least recommended I would give for her as a card, but it's an option nevertheless, so it's just something to keep in mind. Might be good for those smaller maps where the enemy is going to attack really quickly and you don't want her to die pretty fast. Alright, my final thoughts on Helena Leonis, the MR version. Honestly, when it comes to Green Mage as a main job, even though it's a nice support job, I don't recommend it. I don't recommend taking her to 120. It's very situational using her. If you take her to 120, it's because of specific situation. So in this case, in the current PvP meta, wind is running everywhere. So she would be perfect to go up against these wind units because she could provide protection against the wind units. However, we just got Sadali not too long ago, and he kind of could do that as well. So what's next? Healing. She's pretty fast with her healing. So it's great to bring her into battle for that because she's speedy and she can heal. However, we recently got Sadali and he could do that as well. You're starting to see a pattern here. Like, because of the recent release of Sadali, it's hard to recommend EXing Helena here. So where does that put her at? It puts her limited to those limited PvP situations, so limited guild battle, limited quick pick matches, stuff like that. And yeah, when you have a character that's meant for only certain situations, you don't want to EX them. You don't want to use your blossoms on those EXs on that. So I can't recommend at all to lower up unless you really, really love using Helena. Now, if you do EX her, and by all means do, because she can be a great unit when used correctly. In battle, she's very, very supported. And Green Mage support ability is up there as one of the best support abilities in the game. So if you do EX her, do I recommend you get her 120 skill? That's also another situation where it's like, do I really need this EX 120 skill? And I forgot to lower that, get rid of that thing. But yeah, do I really need that EX 120 skill? And that's where the situation, that's where, you're in that situation. And you just have to decide. So yeah, I can't really recommend getting that skill unless you're in that situation. I love how graceful she is. Oh my god. Her model's pretty good. But yeah, when it comes to Green Mage main jobs, those are the harder ones to recommend EXing. So if you find yourself in a situation where should I EX Helena, most likely the answer is no, unless you're talking about UR Helena, or Summer Helena, Black Rose Helena, Summer. Unless you're talking about those Helenas, then you can EX those. But regular Mama Leonix Queen Helena, yeah, I will say she's a pass. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed this review. I don't know who's the next one, but I'll figure it out. I see you guys next time. This is going on a bit longer than expected, but yeah. Hope you guys enjoy. See you guys next time. Laters.